2, 1, action.
All right, recommended action that the Board of Education leaves executive session at 7:59 PM and returns to the regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, I'm sorry, on the question? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain? Motion carries. All right. Thank you for your patience. I know it went a little bit longer than I had initially indicated. So thank you to everyone who is joining us in person this evening, as well as those who are watching our live stream, our recording. We are certainly in the home stretch of this school year with just a few days left, but those days are full of exciting events. Tomorrow is the 8th grade picnic over at FDR Park. And looking into next week, the senior awards ceremony will be held here at the high school auditorium at 7 PM on Monday, June 24th. The CET moving up ceremony for our 4th graders will also be held here at the auditorium on Tuesday, June 25th at 9 AM. The high school graduation will be held on Tuesday evening at 6 PM over at Croton Point Park. And finally, Wednesday is the last day of school and the PVC graduation will be at 9 AM also over at Croton Point Park. I hope all of our students, families, and staff have a wonderful summer with some time to rest and recharge with the people you love. It'll be a busy summer here in the district with our future facilities planned projects in several locations. So please stay tuned for the project update from our architects at KG&B right after the superintendent's report tonight. I'm also really excited to share that the district will be partnering with the Croton Free Library to host a beginning English for Adults program this summer. Enrollment will begin on July 1st, and the program will support 14 non-English speaking adults over the age of 18. The program will meet every Monday and Thursday from 5 to 6:30 PM, beginning on July 22nd and finishing on August 29th. And lastly, if you will all humor me for a moment, I have been so proud to serve as board president for the last 5 rather busy years through a pandemic, hiring a new superintendent, embarking on a strategic plan that led to the incredible work we're doing now with our vision map, and a significant capital improvement project, just to name a few things. I would like to thank my board colleagues for entrusting me in this role, our administrators and staff from whom I have learned so much, and the community for allowing me to roll up my sleeves and do this work on behalf of all the students in our district. I'm excited to continue serving on this board and work with all of you to envision and implement what school can be. I'll just be a few seats down the table. So this concludes my last president's report. Thank you. We will now have our first hearing of the public opportunity. We ask that if you would like to address the board, you do so at the podium and add your name and contact information to the sign-up sheet that's provided there. We ask that you refrain from speaking about or identifying any specific staff member or student, and we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dave Tuttle. I live at 94 Grand Street, Carolina Hudson 10520. I'm a lifelong resident of Croton and teacher aide here at the high school. When we last met, I told you a little bit about myself, my duties as teacher's aide, and my current compensation package. Sadly, it appears that those words have fallen on deaf ears. I have no knowledge of the details of the current negotiations, but I know the talks are off, an impasse is being declared, and mediation will take place. This is unfortunate. The animosity that I've witnessed by both parties at the table is counterproductive. This should not be a fight. It's a negotiation, not WWE. I negotiated with Teamsters 817. Rough group of guys. Never seen anything like this. Sadly, it's now come to a third party deciding our fate. Is this who we are as a school? You say change the system, do it. Culture's got to change. $20 an hour to start, $25, 5 years and over. All school holidays, closing breaks, paid. 12 days personal and sick. And for Christ's sake, I'll pay lunch. Done it. Not that hard. Put it in the budget, better yet, put it in a referendum for the voters to decide. Culture has to change. Today I received an email from one of our administrators detailing opportunities to Proctor Regents in August. Teachers pay, $33 an hour. Teachers aide, $17.68. Same job, same work, same qualifications required. I'm qualified. I proctored special education for Regents all week. I'm not available for half price. So what's changed? What's being done? What's being done to change the culture? What's the long-term plan for aides and their recognition in the school? Do what's right. Thank you.
name is Ed Riley. I'm from Truesdale Drive. I'd like to address several issues. One, I think that the cultural fair at the Harriet Tompkins School, which included supposed to be culture of countries, culture of civilizations. In a way, you have given us an opportunity, a multiple opportunity, both legally and otherwise, but the inclusion of the gay and transgender culture group, including transgender flags, which is an endorsement of mutilation of children, massive hormone treatments, and what you call reaffirmation. That means if you think you're something, we got to reaffirm it, pronouns, etc. That particular group had no business being included in the CED cultural fair, and I condemn you for that. That is what grooming is. That's a grooming of children down in the elementary school level where they have no idea what's going on. And I accuse you all of that. You should have resisted them, especially in light of what's being transpired in all the countries throughout the world except the United States and Canada. That is the formulas, the treatment sets for gender dysphoria have been based on such weak science, but fully adopted by American medical associations, but now rejected by Europe because in the evaluation of these reports, bad science, terrible treatments. So, item one. Number two, in developing this DEI report, conservatives, religious people in this community are a minority. In this, all your DEI programs in this school district and in the village do not address the most oppressed minorities of all, people of differing opinions from progressives and liberals, and some of the intimidations they've gone through. You talk about everything else, but not that. And in this environment, the mayor of this town has says, if you don't like it, you can leave. The governor of this state had says, if you don't like it, if you're pro-life, you're pro-gun, you're conservative, you're religious, you can leave. And the governor before that, Cuomo, said the same thing. If you're conservative, if you're pro-life, if you're religious, you don't like the way you do things, leave. So the biggest problem you have with DEI is dealing with diverse opinions and protecting that. That's why you're being sued.
Good evening, I'm Michael Reyes. I'm hoping to capture a different tone tonight. We'll see if I can. I know you can't speak about the negotiations, and I'm beginning to understand that. But I also know that one of the members of the board has been stating outside your board meetings that the union is moving the goalposts. Now, it seems to me that if you want to speak to the public and say that the aides are asking for too much or changing demands, that looks like getting a negative message out. That looks like you are trying to influence the community. But, you know, even if that's true, I'm wondering really about a bigger question. Even if it's true about the goalposts, aren't we really missing something else here? I mean, I'm a labor attorney, and I know it's natural to get caught up in the table and its rules, whose conduct was upright in the negotiations, who we can feel better about ourselves because we're right and we're doing things in the way it's supposed to be, and kind of demonstrate the other side that, gee, they don't really get it about fair play. But that's not the forest here. The forest is, yes, we have a new union. Yes, they may do things that you don't like or the method. But there's understandable anger that's built up over many years, before your time, most of it. Low wages, no benefits. There may be some unfamiliarity with what we consider the protocols and fine negotiation technique. But so what? That's not the forest. So consider the true core of the historical problem. Think about change or do the right thing, like David was saying. And we should ask, are we evaluating our own actions, as we talked about before, in the same moral rectitude and energy, and applying that moral energy or rectitude to the big issues, not to the tiny, small, distracting ones? Because otherwise it looks like we're putting our heads in the sand. Oh, I'm thinking about this. And when we talk about the bigger society issues, let's talk about what's getting paid. $17.88 an hour, even with an increase, even doubling that current amount to 60-cent raises instead of 30-cent. That's going to get people just below $20 an hour in 2027. That's a double the increase they're getting now. That's unlivable. Unlivable. In Dobbs Ferry, they are paying $31,000 a year, excuse me, $33,350 a year. The rate today for Croton is $23,600 when you extrapolate that hourly rate of $17.88. Almost $11,000 more down the street. Guess what? People should drive down there, right? And they are driving down there. Because you all seem to not realize that people are gonna leave. There's discussion about, oh, is it an unfair labor practice to think about leaving? Guess what? Newsflash. People will leave. Doesn't matter what you say or what happens at a table, because how would they do anything else that makes sense? And how are we gonna keep our children with steady, constant, the same people and with understanding from the same people, if they all have to leave 5-6 times a year? Everybody's going, 60 people I've heard, more than 60. There's been turnover in the last 3 years. So children are having to adjust to many different people all the time. That's not the education I think we want.
Hi, my name is Erica Loudon. I have 2 children in the district and I live on Penfield Avenue here in Croton. I just wanted to know, is there a current policy in place that requires the Board of Education to respond within a certain time frame to emails from parents or various communications from parents that have students in the district? And this would again be beyond just a thank you, I received your email, or thank you, I received your letter. Is there an actual dialogue that is required? And a second point I wanted to make is, as a Jewish woman, I was very disappointed to learn that at the CET Cultural Night, the board and the administration brought in an outside group to host the Palestinian table. There were maps showing that the nation of Palestine existed and Israel never existed. There were fake narratives about the history of Jewish people and their tie to Israel that were displayed. And this was all done with your approval and your knowledge. So I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know if there's a really big streak of anti-Semitism and you're promoting it, but it certainly feels that way. Thank you.
Leslie Pollock, Quaker Ridge Road, Corner and Hudson. I'd like to add to that. I'm just curious, as someone who's been active for 15 years, where the accountability is of this current board. There was a time when the board responded to emails and called meetings with people. I sent 2 emails in the last month and a half, did not receive any response from the administration or the board. One of them pertained to an anti-Semitic situation, specifically the multicultural night. Okay, it was brought to the attention of many people that unlike in the past where only friends and family represented the different nations, that an outside couple was brought in who was not a member of this community by someone on the faculty. I wrote an email, the board chair, including everyone else, did not respond. The superintendent did not respond. After 7 days and 5 days respectively on 2 separate emails, I wrote an email specifically asking if there is a policy about the time that you need to respond to parents and if you need to respond to parents. I would like to say that I, to this date, have not heard any answers to any questions that I have posed to this administration or specifically to the board. I, on record, would like to ask, does this board feel that you are exempt from accountability? Sarah will look at me blind. I hear rumors from past board members that Neil Haber has put gag orders on board members from speaking to the superintendent. I have an issue with conflicts of interest of hiring BOCES to do searches when our 23 or 28-year-old board person, who I think is planning on running for board chair, is intimately involved with organizations on searches that may take place in the future. I have yet to hear from Neil. I personally approached him, asked him to meet with me one-on-one. He walked away from me. He has not reached back to me. So I'm not sure if this is a violation of a state code that this board does not respond, okay? On a second note, as a Jewish person, I can tell you as a center of influence of people in this community who contact me about every topic relating to academics. I know for a fact that when my peers and my friends wrote about DEI, they were responded to and they were invited to meetings. Any of us, and there were 3 people in this room who wrote about anti-Semitism, were not responded to. And it was only until I wrote back to the board and the administration this week and specifically stated that it is inherently anti-Semitic, that you're not responding to any of the emails about anti-Semitism. I got a response, thank you, Stephen, to meet with him. But until then, it did not take place.
My name is Amos Bloomberg. I just wanted to thank everyone else who's spoken before me that I agree entirely with everything that has been said up until now. I'm also a Jewish person. I've also sent inquiries about the DEI policy, anti-Semitism, problems with technology in the district. Never received any meaningful response to any inquiry I've ever sent before. So I think there's a problem with response. I'm sure intentions are good. You're all volunteering. You're spending your hard-earned time here. And I'd like to make sure it comes to fruition, do something good for the community. But that involves us on the community as well.
Hi, I'm Andrea Puri and I live at 14 Morningside. I just wanted to mention, as a taxpayer and as somebody who's involved with hiring people locally to work in a childcare program, that it has been very difficult for us to acquire quality staff. And we have a lot of overlap with our staff and the aides. And I just urge you to think about the long-term result that can come from basically what I would call lowballing our aides. Because there is a big picture. And the big picture right now is that wages are going up all over the county and it's gonna be problematic. And as somebody who worked with SEPTA, I know, and I'm sure all of you would agree that aides are part of the foundation of our district. And without them, the district is not going to be able to really serve the students that they need to serve. which includes not just the special ed students, but all the students in the school, because we're all the students are part of one mosaic. And if students aren't being serviced in a classroom, then all the students suffer. And the faculty suffers, everybody suffers. So I just want to speak up and just say that this might be very looking at the trees rather than the forest, as Mr. Rainer said. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sarah Boyce, Benedict Boulevard. I guess, I'm here to talk to you about some of the things that have already been mentioned, DEI standards, what's not being taught to students. I would like to give you a quote from Ben Franklin. A nation of well-informed men, now you have to forgive them because this is, mid 18th century. A nation of well-informed men who have been taught to know and prize the rights which God has given them cannot be enslaved. It is in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins. All right, with that in mind, students deserve to know the truth about American history, all of it. All right. What they don't know, when they leave here is dangerous. If properly instructed, they will leave high school knowing that they are part of a great nation, one that has at a great cost to millions in the past 248 years, millions of its citizens advanced and improved. I've examined the DEI movement from its inception many decades ago, been around a long time. It is based on many false premises. All public schools have a responsibility to teach students the truth, the good and the bad. But equally important, it is necessary to demonstrate how the bad has been remedied and rectified, like slavery, women's suffrage, disabilities, civil rights. Students need to be taught and educated, students need to be taught to understand that their education in public schools pre-K 3 to 12 is a gift brought to them by the taxes paid by hardworking citizens and residents. It is important for students to learn civics, how government works. I am tired of hearing young people, the 30 down group in particular, oh, we don't need an electoral college. Why should we have an electoral college? That's unforgivable. Every student who graduates from here should know why we need an electoral college. And I hope all of you do. They should know why every citizen has a responsibility to abide by all laws, federal, state, and local. What is frightening is that too many graduate without an appreciation of what they have in this country and the ignorance. And I will leave you with this quote. Another quote, Thomas Jefferson, if we are to guard against ignorance and remain free, it is the responsibility of every American to be informed. If these kids don't get informed here, who's going to help them know what a great country and nation they live in? You've got to change things around. I don't see DEI doing that in the long run. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Hi, my name is Christina Alvarez Arnold. I live on Old Post Road North. And I just wanted to say to the board and to the community, just clear up a few things about cultural night, because I'm a longtime volunteer, actually, since the very first cultural night, and that will let you know that my kids are already in high school, but I still go back to CET to participate because it is one of the best nights. It's a night about belonging and sharing, and I know I'm not the only parent and certainly not the only my children were not the only students who absolutely love that night and look forward to it as a celebration. That basically one of their favorite times of the year. So I just want to clarify, because as a volunteer this last year, I got to see from the beginning how this year's organization came to be. And the Palestinian culture was hosted by a parent from here in Croton. And also there was an effort and a successful one to once again have an Israeli culture also celebrated at the same cultural night. It's a night about belonging. It's a night about welcoming every culture. It doesn't have to be a country. It could be your favorite Brooklyn neighborhood. It's just really open to folks that want to generously engage families and their children in various cultures. So I want to just say, as someone who is a volunteer and active, that it was with love that we provided cultural night. And I'm sorry that anyone felt anything other than love, because that was the whole intent, and I think was the whole practice. Thank you.
You already spoke. We have another hearing of the public opportunity toward the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Green, 5 in Lounsbury, 2 kids in high school. And since the last board meeting, the New York Board of Regents announced some recommendations that are going to be voted upon in November that are going to have dramatic effect for pathways in the high school that are kind of path dependent. They can, if we think about it as a district, they have implications for reaching all the way into the elementary school. And I was just wondering if there's planning around anticipating this new set of graduation criteria and ways of optimizing this for the district. So I just wanted to see if there was going to be some response or some way of taking the current architecture of the academic program and kind of making it apply to some of these recommendations. Thanks.
We have any other speakers? With that, we will conclude hearing in public. We have a second hearing of public opportunity toward the close of our meeting. Thank you. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Superintendent Walker to give the superintendent's report.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for everyone who's here in person and watching from home. And just to briefly address Sarah's comment from earlier, I just want to say it's been one of the great honors of my career and a great privilege to have served alongside you. So thank you so much for your leadership and stewardship of the district over the past 5 years. Had a chance to give a superintendent report at the last meeting as well, so I wanted to just cover a few of the events I had a chance to attend in the past 9 school days, and then I'm anxious to yield the floor to our capital project update. Had a chance last week to attend the CHHS award ceremony. One of the special things about being a student at the high school is a chance to get together and to celebrate the accomplishments of our fellow students. And so thank you to everybody who was a part of that. And I want to thank Alice Liu, Laura Duback, secretary, who does an outstanding job in putting that together every year. Also had a chance to attend alongside some district office colleagues and Michael and Nicole, the PVC change presentations. So we talk about how important capstone learning activities are for young people. And again, this year, we're incredibly impressed by the quality of the thinking and the research and the presentations that went into everything that we had a chance to learn that afternoon from young people who picked incredibly important topics and are wonderfully passionate about them. I had a chance to build in some cases off of the work that they'd already done in terms of their passion projects. So we look forward to seeing all of these students as they continue to grow at CHHS in the future. Congratulations to all of you. Also had a chance to attend last week, Monday, the Booster Cubs golf outing at Hollowbrook. Fantastic day, fully sold out, and there were 99 Tiger golfers that day. Raised, I understand, several $1,000s for the Booster Club to support student athletes and athletics. So thank you to Vin Andrews and Jim Steinberg, Lori Zellman, and everyone who was part of putting that day together. Also had a chance to attend the Rotary Club Scholarship Dinner to thank and congratulate Ava and Evelyn and Bryce from the class of 2024, who are not only wonderful students, but true members of the community, in that they think about community service as an ethic and a part of who they are and a part of who their families are. I think all of us who were there that night were inspired by those stories, the essays they had written, and more than anything else, by their contributions to the community. So congratulations to all of them. Thank you to the Rotary Club. And we look forward to seeing all three of them and their families at graduation on Tuesday. Also had a chance to attend the village board meeting last week, where 5 of our teachers, 4 of them are pictured there, were recognized by the village board, including Mayor Pugh and Village Manager Healy, for having achieved national board certification. So congratulations to Jada, to Sarah, to Lauren, to Suzanne Lewis, and to Eric Schmidt, who wasn't able to be there that night, for, as we said that night, continuing in their passionate dedication for ongoing professional improvement. They help to set a standard for what faculty can do, not only here, but anywhere. We also had a chance, the district office, along with Craig Campanaro, to join Mrs. Horton and the 4th grade chorus at CET to attend the Mets game, I guess, last week. The Mets actually won, and I think that started their winning streak. So we take credit, I think, for having started a rare event in the history of, at least recent history of the Mets. But most, what's that?
Let's go, Matt.
Let's go Mets. But most importantly, our kids were phenomenal that night. You feel the excitement from them as the 7th inning got closer, and they to be cheered by 20 or 25,000 Mets fans is something most Mets players don't have a chance to do. Outstanding job by our young Tigers, and thank you to Mrs. Horton. Also had a chance to attend several CHUFSD presentations. This is another special part of being a Tiger, where our seniors have a chance during their last few weeks of their high school experience to go and spend time learning more about a topic that interests them, embedding themselves in various workplaces throughout the region, the community, and in some cases the world, and then coming back and sharing what they've learned. And without question, we're always inspired by what they bring into those environments and what they come back with, and how they're able to talk about how this helps to inspire them and think about what they want for their future. So thank you to our CHUFSD facilitators and to every member of the senior class and faculty and staff who were part of making that possible. Also had a chance to attend the first ENL or ELL student end of year celebration hosted by Amy Anarelli Shaw and Kirby Mosenthal. We have 6 members of the class of 2024 who are English language learners, and their stories are nothing short of inspiring. The resilience they've shown in learning English, in some cases an incredibly short period of time, in some cases earning the seal of biliteracy in a stunningly short period of time, and next week graduating from our high school. When we talk about what school can be, these are the kind of students we talk about. So it was an honor to be there earlier this week with them and their families. Thanks again to Amy and to Kirby for creating what hopefully will become an annual tradition at CHHS. I also just wanted to mention that obviously beginning next week, as Sarah said, Tuesday and Wednesday, these are some of the special days of any year in our school district community. We get a chance to lift up and celebrate some phenomenal students moving up from CET to PVC, from PVC to the high school, and from the high school to the rest of the world. And it's a moment for our entire community to come together and celebrate. And I did also want to say in this setting that we talk sometimes about our school district community as a family, right? But there's a family beyond that. It's our region. It's everyone who's involved in education, who loves young people. And there are some communities that are mourning now. And so I just want to say on behalf of the board and the entire school district community, to the Harrison School District community, to the Bedford School District community, and to the Mamaroneck School District community, our hearts are with you, our thoughts are with you, and we're here for whatever you need. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now our eagerly awaited capital project update. Our architects from KG&D and also Triton Construction are here to give us an update this evening. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for being here. Are we in the right spot?
Right there, you're in the right spot. There you go.
So, make some quick introductions, joined by Sarah Davis, my colleague at KG&D Architects, project architect, associate firm, Kevin Sawyer from Triton Construction, and Patrick from Triton Construction managers.
New member of the team.
Hi. So, it's been a little while since we've been here. I think January was the last time we came to see everybody, and I heard some baseball analogies. So as the school year is rounding third and sliding home, we're on the on-deck circle, getting ready to get in the batter's box. So just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's happened since January and what to expect for the summer. There's obviously some activity that's already started and what to look forward to when school starts, and kind of just a reminder of the big picture regarding the schedule. So this is just a little graphic of where we are in the process. You may remember the entire capital project has been divided into kind of three mini projects. The orange is the roofing, and it's happened in two phases. So last summer, we completed roofing work at CET in the district office. We have now started work at PVC in the high school. And just very quickly, all the design, permitting, bidding, and contractors award is complete for the entirety of the project. So now we are in the construction phase. I saw a chair, which get all the way, but we are starting. So this summer, the Spencer starting, you may have seen that already. There's been some activity. We had a great groundbreaking, and very soon, the work inside the buildings will start. And I'll let Kevin provide some more detail on that. The most recent activity had to do with the bidding and award of the district-wide capital project, which we know the board made an award of those contracts earlier this month. In January, I think we were a little bit doom and gloom. We were talking about the potential impact of the changed SED review process on where this, how that may affect our bidding and ability to start work. We are pleased to report we're starting the project on time to get successful bids. But the review changed from third party to traditional queue from 7 weeks to 7 months. It pushed us up against basically the latest possible window to bid before summer construction could start. And it also created a logjam of other projects that were all bidding at the same time. So when we were faced with that, there were a couple of things in our toolkit that we turned to. One was Kevin and Patrick and the Triton team worked very closely with the building level administration to refine the project schedules and the phasing associated with the work. And the strategy there is to make the project as attractive as possible to bidders. Bidders were faced with a number of opportunities and they had to pick and choose which ones to go after. So that was an important part of making the projects attractive to generate interest. And we had very good turnout across the board for these projects. The other tool in our quiver, or arrow in our quiver, was to use a series of alternates. And the idea with the alternates is we could hedge against the condensed bid schedule, the competition on the market, and still have the flexibility to award a project so it could start on time. So as you know, we did not recommend award of all of the alternates, but we are moving forward with primary program elements of the PVC teacher hub and the transportation facilities. There are a series of alternates that were selectively not recommended, because of budget concerns, but also there may be an opportunity to move forward with them at a little bit later date if we have contingency saving as we complete work. Those elements are generally single prime. That is, it's work that's done by one contractor, and it's not critical path to the other activities of construction, and really are not primary program of the project. There is one item at the top of the not awarded at this time list I just want to address. That's the ADA lift to the stage, and that's a slightly different circumstance. We've been reevaluating the lift to ensure that it's done in the most inclusive manner possible for anybody that would use it. So that will probably include a bit of recommended work at a sooner date than the other ones. So I just wanted to caveat that quickly. That approach has left us with a healthy contingency balance of about 8%. So that's a pool of money that's meant to address anything that may come up during construction. Generally speaking, a reasonable range would be anywhere from 5 to 10%. And this is a very good approach. In short order, we'll start completing work. Sounds crazy, but it's almost August. And in August, we'll have a good handle on where we are with the completion of the roofing. And we were joking about this in our office with the construction administrators. It's almost August, which means it's really crunch time for us. So, as projects complete, we'll monitor the budget and we'll see where we stand with contingency spend. Obviously, we'll fight for every dollar available within the budget. And it's really, now we are on to the process of commencing construction wholeheartedly. And there will be a lot of exciting things that'll start to happen in and around your school buildings. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin and his team, and he can start to talk about, a little bit about maybe where we are with the budget.
I'd like to start just by kind of reiterating some of the things that Walter was just saying, because I think it's really important. We have, over the course of the past few months, checked a lot of very important boxes here, right? We got SED approval, we got a design completion on all these phase projects, got SED approval on those designs. We went out through a public bid process for each one of those phases. Opened up those bids, realized that we can do these projects based on the funding that you had available, and made those awards. And now the contractors are getting involved and starting those projects. You realize how much work that is? It's an amazing amount of things that were done here, just to accomplish those tasks. So I don't think I think it's important just to mention that we've come a long way. Do we have a long way to go? Oh, yeah. So now the real work begins for us, right? The construction and how we're gonna complete all that while we're still educating our students through the school year, right? So as Walter had mentioned, we've got a lot of great plans in place, working in coordination with the administration and the schools to be able to do all this work either in the summertime or after school hours or during the school year. And we're all looking very, very forward to getting that process started. The gentleman here, Patrick Solturk, is with Triton. He is now on site full-time. And I'll let you talk a little bit about what we've been doing. But what I'd like to do is just kind of briefly just talk about budget and schedule. And then I'll turn it over to Patrick. Again, a box to check. We were able to bring all these projects in on budget. We're on budget, all right? You still have an 8% construction contingency. You still have, if you can read this, your bond is $45.5 million. To date, we have committed $41,917,000. That's all the hard construction costs. That's all the contracts from all the public bids that we bid. Various soft costs are included in there for consultant services and insurances and those types of things. We have a remaining balance of $3.582 million in the overall budget. In that includes, as Walter mentioned, an 8% construction contingency, which is healthy. Very happy about that moving forward for your infrastructure projects. I think that's a really good number. There are still a couple of more things that we're going to have to purchase out of that. Some furniture costs, some security costs, some IT costs, but they're built into the budget. All right, and we feel if we continue to go down the path that we're going and stay on top of it, that we should be just fine. And again, I want to just kind of follow Walter. Our hope is that as we get further into the project, that some of these contingencies that we're holding in the event that we have issues that we have to address, we would able to keep or give back and perhaps take on some other things, other related work that's to spend the rest of the balance of the bond. So financially, you are in very good shape. going into this phase of the construction project. I think everybody should be very pleased with what's happened up until now. And we will continue to be diligent to make sure that we stay on that schedule, on that
Yeah, the clicker right there, just hit the side button. Yep.
Okay, so this, you might be familiar with this. This is the schedule that we had put together for you the last time we got together. And it indicates all the different phases of the work, what's been already completed. Obviously, it's got the athletic and security project you can see there, the program infrastructure. The auditorium construction is what we're gonna start first in the infrastructure, going on to the cafeteria and lab. And then various other works that are taking place over the summers. The good thing is that overall, we are still tracking the same timeline that we committed to the community when you started this bond process. Some things have shifted around, and that happens all the time. And there will be some other details as we go along and develop these working schedules with the contractors that might change a little bit more. But for the most part, from 10,000 feet, we're on track to what we had originally planned. Okay. And now I'm gonna let Patrick talk a little bit about things that are happening in and about your district. And I mean, you might have even heard some of it happening when you walked in here today.
Good evening, folks. The pictures depicted on this slide here are essentially of CHHS. This is the roofing project there. What we're doing, we're removing brick courses, and then we're removing the existing through wall flashing. After that, we're installing a new through wall flashing, brick reinstall, brick repointing. And once this is all done, it's gonna be able to accommodate the new roof membrane. We're also elevation sections, both at CHHS and PVC. We're pressure washing. We're also doing a sealant, a water repellent application to the bricks. This is a shot of PVC, as you can men are on an articulating lift there, working on the precast band. So that's PVC. And
So as you probably know, we've already started this project. We're working after school hours. But once the schools, the kids are off to summer school, we're gonna start working more regular full-time day hours. And the plan is to have this project done for the summer.
moving on over to Spencer Field, CET, we had a lovely groundbreaking ceremony on the 4th of this month. We mobilized rather expeditiously immediately after. This is photo documentation of landscape limited, as you can see, demoing the existing perimeter fencing, demoing our handrails, the asphalt pavement. We demoed the goalposts, the flagpole, the concession stand, as well as the track surface. We're removing trees and tree stumps in prep for our rock removal, which will begin in July. And that will eventually lead to our sod removal, the installation of our underground drainage system, as well as the new turf field, which is going to look incredible. So a lot going on, and we're moving rather well.
Very busy July plan, all around your district.
It's been time for the heat, right?
Time for the heat.
So I think that's all we have to share tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Couple questions. I noticed if you go back to the slide on that project timeline. Just so we understand, the timeline says athletics and security summer 2023. And then says athletics and security through the fall of 2023. To probably February 24. Yes, first off, your dates are wrong there. You mean summer 24.
23 to 24 was all the design.
Oh, that's the design. I'm sorry.
And then
So now
Spencer Field construction started on 6/3
Okay,
and will continue through 2025.
gotcha. So I apologize.
Of course.
So,
It can be confusing.
yeah, and basically then what we're saying is that other than the EDC halls and the roofs, everything is, and the auditorium. Now, the auditorium is not going to be available then until sometime after the first of the year. Or first of next year.
So the auditorium timeline is correct. We're hoping that somewhere around winter break, maybe a little, no, I'm sorry, it's a little bit afterwards, that we're gonna have that done. What does that say? 3 March. So that's
March.
spring break.
Spring break.
So we're hoping to have that done around spring break. We want to get the students back in there before the school year is over.
Okay. The first thing I'll say about that is I know that I have said this many times over the years about the murals in the high school, and I know people in the community have come up to me and said, they better not do anything to mess up those murals. So I hope, from you guys' perspective, that you will make sure that our contractors are all very careful about the murals on each side of the stage. But what I see then, other than the auditorium and the roof, really a lot of this work, the cafeteria, the Indie Lab at high school, I mean, the innovation, I'm sorry, and other stuff is really, we're talking summer 24, but the cafeteria looks like, 25 rather, but it looks like the cafeteria, the plan is to start pretty much as soon as
We finish.
you finish the auditorium.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what the plan is. We're hoping to be continuous on construction, but not take everything all on at the same time.
Okay.
It's just too much. So we're gonna focus on trying and getting the auditorium section done. Then we're gonna jump into the cafeteria and the iLab construction. There are some parts of the building that we just won't be able to get into until the summertime to be able to do those renovations, and that's when we'll take advantage of those. But there are opportunities for us to access those spaces, the cafeteria and the iLabs, from the outside the building without affecting your educational process, so we can still operate and do both.
So I guess I'm thinking for the cafeteria in the high school, since that is a important place for students, that I'm wondering, and it's something I'm sure administration will be talking about, where the kids gonna go. We've had situations in the past where we have built that cafeteria where, you know.
Yeah, so what we're planning on doing is we're actually planning on renovating the kitchen and taking the current spaces where the studios are, because that all becomes part of the kitchen cafeteria, renovating that as a phase 1. We're gonna keep the existing cafeteria space available so that you can still use those spaces. And then we'll do that conversion over the summertime and put it all together and get it all operational, so that when the students come back in that September, they'll have a brand new kitchen and cafeteria.
So I want to thank all of you, obviously, because as Walt said, in January, we were looking at a very different scenario. And I want to thank Denise again for her, extensive financial planning regarding allowing all these margins for all of this unforeseen, delay due to SED, but thank God we're all here. With respect to the CHHS ADA stage lift, I wasn't sure what you were saying. Well, this will be completed by the time the project is completed. It just hasn't been awarded yet.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of concern about how the lift is accessed, how kind of visible the lift is, and how comfortable one would be using the lift. So we're just seeing there's another way to do it that maybe is a little more suitable to someone who would use it frequently.
Is it an ADA requirement?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, and you meet that requirement now. You have a piece of equipment that does this.
Mhm.
So you're in compliance, but we want to make something that's a little bit more permanent, that it didn't require someone else to come in and set up in advance. But there was a concern about the amount of time it would take to go up and down, how visible that would be, and how comfortable someone might be using it. So we're looking at some options to see if there's another way to make those accommodations more comfortable.
Thank you.
With respect to the PVC outdoor space, you have a completion time right now scheduled for end of summer 2025. Will all of that work be done next summer, or will it be out of commission all of this time until then?
Good question. We were originally hoping to do that this summer. But due to a couple of we reevaluated it and decided that it would be most appropriate to do over the summer of 25. So therefore, it will be available for public use throughout the summer of
Until
24.
June of 2025.
Correct.
Yeah. And then my last question is about the tennis courts and access to the tennis courts during all of this, because I know our community is active in all of our outdoor recreation.
Shouldn't change.
Shouldn't
They should have,
change. Monday
It'll be on the,
Friday.
on the weekends.
On the weekends,
Friday,
right.
Friday through Sunday.
let me reiterate.
Yeah.
It should not be affected by the construction work that we're doing.
With respect to Spencer Field, but for the weekends, right? The weekends will still have access, Monday through Friday, there will not be access.
No, the site is just,
The traffic
yeah,
management.
there's a little too much going on. There's a lot of trucks going down, so we feel that for safety reasons, we need to isolate that area.
Monday through Friday.
Oh,
Monday through Friday.
Oh, I see.
Right. And as part of that, in the fall, when we had tennis, with the boys or girls, I don't remember which one, the fall
It's
sport.
girls in the fall.
And that will not be at the field in fall of 2024. Because you'll be doing, the work will still be continuing on Spencer. Is that correct?
Work will be continuing at Spencer. this
Right,
fall.
so we are alternate arrangements have to be made for the girls tennis team. For practice and all matches in the fall.
I don't know
Yeah, I
if
think
this
that's-
goes, so I think
There are
that
other paths.
For
Get
this,
there.
for the summer, we're doing the utility trenching, which has to come, the electric is coming from
Yeah,
Gerstein
yeah.
Street, the electric, or the water and sewer are coming around the backside of the DO. So there's gonna be a lot of open trenches in and around going down to the field. The expectation is by the end of the summer, that work will sort of get into the Spencer zone in that fenced in area, and there'll be less of a concern, there'll be less traffic going on. So I don't know we really haven't gotten into the sports season, but I think our hope would be that we would be able to use those courts with alternate access. But for the summer, when the brunt of this is going on, and, you know, just safety wise to keep people away during the actual construction, and then opening up on the weekend, so that way people can use the courts.
Josh?
Have we selected a technology yet for the Spencer Field surface? The infill?
No, we have not. We have specified some options and we have to make a final decision on the options.
So there've been a few questions from the community about that on and off over the past few months.
Yeah, we can make a final, we have a final discussion on it before it's on.
And is that based on cost? Is that based on an assessment of the different infill materials? What are the factors?
Yes. Yeah, I don't have the material off the top of my head, but you know, there are a number of different options within the field infills. The most common field infill is a recycled rubber product, which is the recycling process is to break the rubber using a freezing technology. It separates the rubber from any potential other components like things like car tires that may have a steel tread inside or steel reinforcement inside. It breaks rubber free. There are what are called virgin rubber products, which is from a known origin, manufacturer origin, not as a post-industrial product. And we have specified the virgin material. We have not specified organic material. So there are some organic options and some higher end, quote unquote, higher end, more expensive recycled options. Kind of the one that has the most name cachet is Nike Grind. It's made from Nike shoe soles. It's colorful. It's not black. It has grays and reds and pinks and every color you can see in a Nike shoe. But it's expensive and it doesn't give any more performance quality than the virgin material. So the current specification includes the virgin material. not the recycled product. And we are not recommending an organic product for a number of reasons, but primarily because of maintenance. It can foster different types of bacterial, fungal growth in it. It also can require irrigation to keep it from getting dry and blowing away. So that's kind of where we are. Those organic materials are, the most popular one might be a coconut husk.
And what's the longevity in terms of all those different materials? I can assume that, you know, the organic material would probably need to be replaced sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, the rubberized infill material is generally good for the life of the field. The only thing you may do is clean it. There are machines that can do a deep clean, and you can't imagine the amount of hair ties and things that end up in there. My daughter's lost some jewelry along the way in somebody's fields. But it's really just about a little bit of maintenance, infilling low spots, cleaning it. The organic material, it really has to do with moisture. So if there's a lot of moisture on the field and it doesn't dry quickly, that material is more susceptible to kind of decay, right? I don't know what.
Well, to move away from the field for a minute, are there going to be any spaces in the buildings that won't be air conditioned at the end of this project?
Yes. Yes, this project does not include air conditioning all the buildings. You may remember the genesis of the project. That was something the committee considered, as you know, and we went through a study to analyze the cost of it and the scope of it, and it was an overwhelming amount of money proportional to the project, and there was a lengthy discussion about whether or not that should be included, and it really was not feasible to air condition everything within the scope or the budget, I'm sorry, what we're talking about. And we did look at some specific spaces in each school, but the simple answer is this project is not going to include air conditioning all of the spaces in the buildings.
But there is $1 million or around $1 million in HVAC upgrades from that.
There's certainly HVAC work where we are performing major renovations. Those are going to be air conditioned.
It's a good list anywhere of what those are. I know that you presented to them.
Of the spaces that are currently not air conditioned?
That will be, that are not and will be.
I think we have the information to tell you kind of what parts of your building won't be air conditioned at the end of the project. Yeah.
Yeah, that would help.
There's also a proposed bill right now, it's kind of Governor Hochul regarding temperatures. And
Yes.
Yeah. I'm assuming you guys did their work recently enough that we still have a reasonably accurate set of cost estimates of what it would take to do that work.
Yes.
If there was this phase 2.
We can certainly help.
Yeah, we can take a look at what was done in the conceptual development and revisit it. You're not alone. I mean, this legislation is going to put a lot of pressure on school districts to provide cooling efforts. May not be making spaces 68 degrees when it's 99 degrees outside, but something to at least temper air. Yeah, we'd be happy to take a look at that.
Any other questions?
All right.
Well,
Thank you all.
Sarah, Kevin and Patrick, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for your.
Thank you. Have a great summer.
presentation.
Sharon,
Yes.
if I could just commend the team for their foresight, their adaptability, their mobilizing once we received approval. And of course, I don't believe that any of this could have been done without Brad's assistance throughout this process. But other districts were facing the same challenges as we were with the timeline and received late approval. Some of them were not able to go out to bid. They lost a summer. In our world, a summer is a year because that's when all of the work is completed. So as those projects get pushed out and there's delays, there's cost escalation and there's scope reduction. So the fact that we got this and we also have incredible contractors that bid on the project, that were awarded the project. So bravo to the team.
kudos to all of you, and Brad and you did as well, Denise,
I would
for,
just like to
for
add-
just being a great team to work.
Districts did not require going down to Spencer Field, right? Like
Yes.
districts that would have just been a full up to
Easy
the.
pull up.
Yeah, so thank you,
Yes,
all of
thank
you.
you.
Everyone.
Very welcome. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, may I
Yes.
also add something else? So we went out, for a ban on Tuesday, we
Mhm.
sold our bans, Jeffries won the ban. Also with the encouragement of our fiscal advisor, we went out for a short-term Moody's rating. It's called a MIG rating. We received a MIG 1 rating, so that is equivalent to about 25 basis points, which saved us approximately $67,000 on the ban, so that's very good news. Also, in our model projections, we estimated an interest rate that was almost about 25 basis points higher than what our ban sold for. So both of those funds will feed back into the project,
Wonderful.
which is another wonderful thing.
Oh, thank
So
you.
what's the rate that we were able to get?
The net interest cost was 3.538.
Thank you, Denise, for your
Thank you very much.
financial planning. Thank you.
All right.
We have good people there.
We will now move into new business. Well, we're second part of new business here. 3.2. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District hereby approves the 2024 to 2020, that should be 2028, sorry. Memorandum of agreement between the district and the Croton Teachers Association bargaining unit, and authorizes the superintendent of schools to take all actions consistent with the terms thereof.
So moved.
Second,
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District hereby approves the 2024 to 2028 memorandum of agreement between the district and the CSEA custodial bargaining unit, and authorizes the superintendent of schools to take all actions consistent with the terms thereof.
so moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Right, moving on to 3.4, recommended action, whereas RS Abrams and Co. LLP performed the 2023 internal focus area audit of extra classroom activity funds as previously recommended by the district's audit committee. And whereas RS Abrams and Company LLP has prepared the internal audit focus area report, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Croton Harmon Union Free School District hereby accepts the internal audit focus area report. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education accepts the corrective action plan as prepared.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Does the audit committee have anything to add to
I was
this?
gonna say,
So, yeah, I was gonna say, if anybody has any questions, we mentioned this, I mentioned this briefly at the last meeting. This came after they reviewed, and found that 23 out of the 45 clubs didn't have any activity. They looked at financial activity, our policy doesn't specify, they just wanted some stronger language in our policy. And so that's what this is doing, it's basically saying that there'd be, between the principal and the club, people responsible for the club, so there's a student representative and a faculty member, that if there's activity in the club, even if it's not financial, then it's viable to continue. But when there are a number of years of no activity, then we'll have to reconsider whether that club should be remain open or closed.
And as a board, we're going to re-examine policy number 5252
This, yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
as
policy.
recommended by.
as recommended.
But the recommendation here is actually not saying, is actually saying that it's the principal's central treasurer for student activity funds. That doesn't mean student involvement. That doesn't mean like the club sponsor, right? Did I misunderstand what you're saying? So when you, I guess I'm not understanding
So
how you explain that.
yeah, sure, let me try to say it again,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong on this, but
Okay.
my understanding is that for a club, there has to be a faculty.
Right.
I guess chair, but I think that's what we're looking for, faculty advisor, and then a student that is student representative on that club,
Right.
right? And that's for, kind of segregation of duties and general controls around handling of cash.
Right.
So
You should just add that one of the things about clubs is that they're supposed to be student run.
Right.
So the student who is that person you mentioned, Omar, is really the one, and the other students are responsible. So they're learning how to manage money, et cetera.
So the question is, if there are no monetary or financial transactions occurring in a given year, does that mean the club did not meet or did not have any activity?
That's the question.
Right, that's what the auditors raised, right? And so this is just to clarify through the policy about what we would do when a club doesn't.
Right.
Have
activity.
It's updating the definition of activity.
Right. So my question, I think, was just about when you, maybe I misheard, who was reviewing whether what happened for the club that year qualifies as activity. I thought you said that there was something about student involvement with that, and I just didn't see that in the plan. That's what I was trying to understand. Or did I not hear it right?
I think maybe you heard central treasurer.
Well, you didn't say central
Yeah.
treasurer. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to.
I was defining kind of the roles of, or describing the roles of, or how a club functions.
Yeah, I heard that part.
That's what I was describing.
Okay, so I think what I'm just trying to understand is. Who is the audit is we're saying that we're gonna have the principal determine whether the club is active enough to continue.
And we have had those meetings, so we had those meetings this week with our principals. And we went through all of the co-curricular clubs. And we determined that 4 of those clubs will no longer continue.
Got it.
So what we're doing is those funds will then go into either student faculty congress or student council if it's at PVC. So of the clubs identified by the audit, I think they
Of the 28?
23 or 28,
45.
only 4 of them.
We're actually inactive.
Yes.
Were they at the middle school or at the high school?
1 at the middle school and 3 at the high school. And I will provide a listing of those clubs and scholarships. We also reviewed scholarships at year end. So I will provide that to the board in our next meeting.
Thank you.
If a club that has gone dormant in that manner reconstitutes, say it's been inactive for a year, I mean, inactive, we haven't set this in policy yet, what the time frame is.
The
Right.
policy actually says a year, and we felt that it was too soon to make that decision.
Right.
Because things are cyclical and students, 1 year you may have a full grade of students are interested in something, and then next year it will die down, but then it will resurface. So there are a lot of things at play, so we thought that bringing it to the policy committee and revising that 1 year term into, we'll review it annually. But if there's inactivity for more than a year, we're not going to,
It wouldn't be an automatic.
it wouldn't be
Won't be
an
closed
automatic.
after 1 year of
yes.
inactivity.
Right.
But if a club were to resurface, of course, it would be a budgetary decision. So if the principals have certain amount of funds allocated to clubs or to their budget, and 20 clubs popped up, they would have to make a decision if we couldn't support all 20 extra clubs.
But I thought, Josh, you were saying, let's say a club had $1,000 in the kitty. And the club disbanded, it was inactive, and then 2 years later, somebody said, hey, I wanna, let's start it again. Were you asking, can they go get the $1,000 back?
Kind of where I'm going,
Yeah.
but really what I'm more interested is being inactive and not having any financial transactions are two different things.
Yes.
Right.
You could have a situation in which, yes, the club has gone dormant financially because they only had 2 kids participating this year. And
Or
they
be-
couldn't field any events as a result. They didn't have any expenditures, but they didn't have any fundraising and they didn't have any expenditures either.
Right.
Either.
And that was the case, so, right, the 28 or 23, whatever it was, right, were identified as financially inactive, right? Because
Right.
that was what the auditor was looking at, but in actuality, right, most of those were still actually active. They
Right.
just weren't
Spending
Right.
money.
They weren't
It's a book
spending.
club. A book club, they don't do many fundraisers,
Yes.
so they don't have financial activity. So there are a lot of clubs that will not have any
Right.
financial activity.
And those would continue because they are not dormant.
Right, okay, so then if the next year they have enough and they do need funds, they still have access to their funds, presumably.
Not, if the fund was not, if the fund was not sent to the Student Faculty Congress.
Right, so if they weren't deemed inactive,
Right.
right, after the 2 years and.
If they were not deemed inactive, okay. Right. I think,
So
it
we're
sounds like we need to
changing-
do some work on the policy to make it clear.
Right.
But we're changing, basically, that we're changing the criteria from, we're being explicit in the policy from, where the auditors are looking at it from financial activity, for us to meet any type of activity. So if they meet, it's an activity, right? There should be minutes documenting that they have met, and that's fine, they'll continue.
So they won't lose the money if
That's
they
right.
need to. And so what you're talking about is that the policy needs to be clarified so that we're not judging them on just financial activity. I don't think that makes perfect sense.
Do we have a sense of the percentage of our clubs that are actually, co-curricular activities? Student run co-curricular activities that are actually keeping minutes of their meetings?
We are not checking minutes.
Right, so
But
if we do this, we might need to be more diligent about.
Well, this was a very thorough audit of our clubs, and I will tell you that this is an area that there are always many problems because
It's not.
I was involved in the last one.
Right. So they did a very thorough study on all of our clubs and the fact that this was the only comment identified is very good news.
Okay.
And I
I
will
know.
give credit to Kelly Len, who jumped into this project as soon as she came on board and is the central treasurer for these clubs. And she established a protocol in prepared a slide deck for all of our treasurers and advisors and did a wonderful job training and preparing the team for this. So credit to Kelly for that.
I think to go back to Josh, what you said, it seems to me that I don't know if the policy needs to be so prescriptive that it says every club will maintain minutes. Because if, as Denise said, if you have a book club, everyone's gonna show up, they're gonna read the book, they're gonna talk about the book, they don't have to be called to
Or
order.
at least a record of meetings or
But
something
yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
the
you know,
faculty
something to
advisor
evidence that
and the
the,
student would have to keep some evidence enough to demonstrate, to any auditor and of course the school administration that they actually did stuff.
yeah, and related to that, there's an advisor who's collecting a stipend
Mhm.
for being the advisor of that club, and it's somewhat critical that, if there's no stipend, presumably, there's no stipend to collect if the club that never meets for the year.
Correct. And that was one of the things I think that we did touch upon when we were discussing this in the audit committee. That's just, a thought of what is practices we want to have. Case of dormant committees and, our own districts, kind of oversight to make sure that stipends are not being provided for committees that aren't meeting because that's, not what they're for.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Okay, moving on, recommended action that the Board of Education approves the agreement for services between the Croton Harmon Union Free School District and a Rising Star for universal pre-K services for the 2024-2025 school year.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
Yeah, I just,
Rachel, did you wanna give us a quick, update on this?
Yes.
Very exciting.
So we were lucky enough that a Rising Star had space left at their facility to seat 12 more UPK students, because they are contracting with Penn High District. So they said, Rachel, we can fit a classroom of 12. I said, that's exactly how many we have on the wait list. So all students that registered of interest for the UPK this year have been seated.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you
That's
very much for your
amazing.
work.
That's amazing.
We're very
Thank you.
Very lucky.
that,
We
that
did
was gonna
have-
be my clarification, that these are seats to kind of get people off the waiting list, and that the other, I forget how many seats, that were placed at Children's Space North remain, and this is in
58 at
addition
Children's
to them.
Space, and there were 12 remaining students.
Right.
Because we had about 9 declinations, they didn't want the space at the
Yeah.
Children's Space North. So it left a remaining 12, and they will all be seated at Rising Star if they accept the seat, which I'll notify them tomorrow of the board's
Thanks for
decision.
clarifying. I know there was some questions from the community about how that was all working, so that's great.
It worked out luckily.
So what is the total number of UPK slots that we have? Is it 7?
70,
It's great.
yes.
And that is funded by,
State and federal allocations only.
Kudos, Rachel, thank you for working to do this, I know I know our community really appreciates, having these spaces for UPK programs, so.
I also think this is a perfect example of the community coming out and speaking regarding this issue and asking for something, and you working hard to get it for them, so this is a great collaboration. And a great example of, the community coming and asking for something in our district working to do that, so thank you. This is great for all these kids and their families.
and local businesses stepping up.
Yeah, absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain? Motion carries. All right, we'll now move on to 3.6, recommended action that the Board of Education approves the side letter of agreement between the Croton Harmon Union Free School District and the Croton Harmon Administrators Association, CHA, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain? Motion carries. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the proposed settlement for the tax certiorari of MTR of 104 Grand Street LLC versus the
Determining matter of.
I'm sorry, yeah, matter of 104 Grand Street LLC via the assessor of the town of Portland et al. That is the, I don't even know what these are. Supposed to be, Supreme Court of Westchester County Index number 67074/23 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. All right, we'll now move into ongoing business. So ongoing business, we have the Health and Safety Committee community member selection. I know that we have received the letters from 4 interested applicants for the community member selection. And I would like to hear if anyone had someone they would like to nominate for that position, or applicants they would like to bring forward at this time.
I would like to nominate Charles Miller. Based on the fact that he's not serving in the school district or in our community in any other capacity, I'd love, to create a place where somebody who, as he says in his statement to the board, is a a recent retiree, is that correct?
Yep.
I'd love to make a place for him to feel like he can continue to contribute in our community. I noticed on some of the other statements that we are very, very fortunate to have so many people who serve in our community in other capacities. I would just love, and this was one of my, inquiries when we talked about asking for statements from community members, to just ask if they served in our community or in our district in any other capacity, because I think it is important to allow space for new people to come and to contribute and to kind of plant roots and allow us the benefit of their expertise in other arenas. So that's my nomination.
Does anyone have any other nominations they would like to make? Look over that far away with these glasses on.
These are all definitely qualified candidates. It's just.
Yeah, no,
My two
it's-
cents
and-
on how you differentiate one from the other is.
And like we said at our last meeting, we're thankful to have so many interested community members want to take on this role, because it is a role that has gone unfilled. My entire time on the board, much longer than that, I think, so.
Since you've been on the board, there were two community representatives.
Community non-parent representatives.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I served with one of them, and that person's kids were out of the district, so yeah.
All right.
I think it's great that we are making an effort to also, really do significant outreach and do it in a way that is timely so that people know about it.
Yep. All right, sure.
I can start having the Jeopardy song if we need.
Yeah, I would like that.
Well, I'll second that nomination.
Great.
Right.
Okay. No nominations to make. All right. And recommended action that the Board of Education approves the appointment of Charles Miller as the non-parent member of the Health and Safety Committee.
So moved.
We already have a motion in a second.
Oh,
Well, that was a nomination, so this is the approval.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain?
Abstain.
Motion carries. All right. Thank you, to Mr. Miller, and to all of the other applicants who submitted indications of interest for this role. We'll now move on to 4.2, which is recommended action that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the 2024-2025 Health and Safety Committee members as presented, with the change from TBD under non-parent community member to Charles Miller.
so moved.
Second.
On the question?
I just would note that we do have two units that do not have representatives unfilled at the moment. I just, under policy, if at some point those units would want to present somebody, then they will be added.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose, abstain? Motion carries. All right. Recommended action resolved that the Board of Education of the Croton Harmon School District hereby adopts a revised 2024-2025 school calendar dated June 10th, 2024, which is subject to further revision as may be required due to any directives and or executive orders issued by the governor and or directives issued by the Board of Regents or the State Education Department.
So moved.
What's the amendment?
So the dates, the end dates, John, you can probably discuss this
When we
better.
were working on the draft calendar to present to the board back in December, we were working on the assumption of a Regents rating day based upon what we are experiencing this year, which is the last Wednesday in June. We subsequently found out that the Regents rating day was actually 2 days later, Friday, June 27th. Therefore, we had to insert 2 extra student contact days at the end of June, meaning that we had the ability to then take 2 student contact days out of another place in the calendar. We work with Jen Moore as the CTA union president to pull her membership to see what was the most favorable days to then take out as student contact days. And the difference there from what we approved back in December is April 21st and May 23rd are now days off. So that's the change. April 21 and May 23 are days off. June 26, June 27 are days on. So those are 2-day swaps.
Is this the longest school year that you've all ever experienced
It's a long
as
one.
educators?
Elapsed time, not total day.
Yeah, right.
A number of total days, but
Yeah.
it's
Right, but like
it's
the
stretched.
ending date, that's the longest, yeah. So it gives them basically, if they're not doing fall sports, 6 weeks off. That's it.
Less off in the summer.
All New York State's in the same boat.
No, I know, it's not a criticism of the district, it's just kind of like a reminiscence of when I would get off on June 12th, that's all that was.
And they're not half days that week, they're.
For some of them, they will be.
Regular
They will
They'll
be,
half
Yeah,
days.
for some of them, they will be. Can I get a second on that?
Second,
No, you.
I
moved the
I'll
motion.
second.
No, I like. How to do it.
On a table. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Right, we will now move into instructional personnel. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the request for an unpaid leave of absence submitted by Michael Spalding, teacher at Croton Harmon High School for the 2024-2025 school year.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action be it resolved that Angela Meeks be appointed to a 1.0 leave replacement position for Michael Spalding as a chemistry teacher at Croton Harmon High School effective August 28th, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, to be compensated at an annual salary pending contract negotiations, MA step 17.
So moved.
Can we actually fill that in
I was
now?
gonna say, we can fill that in following this since we did just, but I don't know that,
Yeah.
that number off the top of my head.
Right, we'd have to go back and
We'll
look at the MOA and
Yeah, okay.
see how it's.
So I'm okay with adopting it as written.
Okay.
Second,
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action be it resolved that Nicole Damasio be approved to a 1.0 leave replacement position for Rebecca Capone as an elementary teacher at Carrie E. Tompkins Elementary School, effective August 28th, 2024 through November 30th, 2024, to be compensated at an annual salary pending contract negotiations, MA step 1 prorated.
so moved.
Second.
On the question?
Just one moment. The position is a early childhood education, or is it a special ed? You pardon me.
Early childhood.
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Recommended action be it resolved that Dana Buckout be appointed as a 1.0 leave replacement position for Kelly Burney as an elementary teacher at Carrie E. Tompkins Elementary School, effective June 6, 2024 through June 30th, 2024, to be compensated at an annual salary of $78,745, MA step 5 prorated.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. Right, we will now move into donations, bless you. Recommended action that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation from the Croton Harmon Education Foundation, CHEF, in the amount of $36,549.90 for innovative learning spaces at the Carrie E. Tompkins Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Is there, can Steve or somebody give us some insight into what exactly this is going towards?
Yeah, so this is multiple spaces at CET, including the space outside. You can picture the space outside of Marlena's room. Right, there's a pretty open space there that they're looking to turn into a collaborative learning space for students as opposed to what it is now, which is sort of a place for lost and found and some other. As well as a couple of other projects room, right? I think another space at CET.
But like specifically, because I read through the whole, they're all, I'm just trying to sort of understand, like, is it gonna be like recreational space, instructional space, like what is the, I'm just curious, because again, it's great that Chef is supporting this, yeah. So it's sort of like a classroom that's like an open area.
Yeah, it's part of the goal
Classroom.
across the system is to try to expand the amount of collaborative instructional space that we have. And I agree with the building administration that certainly those are spaces that can be used better, more effectively.
Yeah, for sure. Would like the development of that space into whatever it could become, that wouldn't have like an effect on after school program that's running in that room or anything like that. Okay. I think it's great. I think it's great to hear that CET is going forward on this and actually looking for opportunities to get this kind of grant funding. We haven't, I think, heard from them on this sort of stuff in a while, so it's exciting. Thank you.
And the projects room is that room down in the fourth grade?
Yes,
Correct?
downstairs, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a huge room.
It is a
That's-
huge room,
that's-
yeah, and it's
That's
really
our-
underutilized.
With
Yeah.
the sink and, everything.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chef.
thank you.
All in favor?
Hi.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries, all right. And as Anna mentioned, thank you very much to Chef for its continuous support of our buildings and of all of our students. We will now move into the consent agenda. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves all items under the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
I would just like to say that with respect to item 7.3, I think it's amazing that we are in one swift move, being very clear about our coaching assignments going forward, and there is no question for our parents whether some of these sports for our student athletes are going to have coaches, who the coaches will be. I can't even imagine the amount of work that went into getting this approved and having all these people sign on by, June 20th, 2024, especially given all of the, what we foresee will be different coaching situations. So kudos to the athletic department and to everyone who had anything to do with this. And thank you to our returning coaches. And I'm so excited for our student athletes. So this is really, really great. I've never seen this.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past and want this to become the practice, and great credit, as you said, to Bill and Christine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would just like to add that I am pleased to see both among the volunteers and among our coaches, a lot of coaches and assistant coaches who were athletes at Broken Harmon High School over the years.
Yep.
And it's good that, we are able to have them continue the tradition of their playing. I also note that the volunteer volleyball coach, which is really great, is one of two is Robin Cook. Who, and for those who may not know, she was a longtime phys ed teacher at CET and the coach of our volleyball team when we won state champions in 1998 and 1999, and was really the fact that she still wants to come back and work with our kids is great.
And there's a lot of returning coaches there, which is great in terms of continuity and all those programs. So this is amazing.
For clarity, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understand. I'm not seeing, so this is not actually a complete list, right? Because we're not seeing anything for modified soccer right now for
Right, there are
girls and
still,
for boys. We're not seeing anything for modified lacrosse, right? This is not like an exhaustive list. It just happens to be more fleshed out than what we've seen traditionally by this time in.
Significantly.
Yes, I'm aware of that. It just, it's not everything. So if someone in the community were to read this and were to say, well, I don't see this sport listed, it doesn't mean that sport's not happening. There's not a coach assigned to it yet, right? I just wanna make sure I'm understanding that. Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries. All right, we will now move into the closing of the meeting, which brings our second hearing of the public opportunity. Again, we ask that if you would like to address the board, you do so at the podium. And you can add your name and contact information to the sheet provided there. We ask that you refrain from speaking about or identifying any specific staff member or student, and ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Leslie Pollock, I'm here again because 3 minutes wasn't enough. I've been coming to these meetings for many years. I took a break for 7 years. I'm a little dumbfounded how we never talk about academics. So you have DEI going on and people with anti-Semitic, things going on. I gave my personal situation. I'm here and only involved when I speak about academics. And for the first time in 15 years, I have been coming to board meetings this year and there is never mention of academics at all. I'm a little surprised that the superintendent's report talks about golf outings, but yet John Green brought up probably the most substantive topic this evening about the Board of Regents, map of curriculum, and there was no response from the superintendent in his superintendent's report to answer that. Why? I don't understand. There's so many people concerned about so much going on with living environment and rumors and co-curriculums and dual curriculum, and yet we don't talk about it at these meetings, and I don't understand why. So I'm gonna ask again, when will the answer from the administration or the board be public to John Green's question, which I would love to know the answer for? And I would like to make an official request to have it in writing so I can see what the answer is, and that is in response to the fact that the prior administration had mapped and planned curriculum and strategy around STEM, teachers and a continuum of classes and planning through elementary school through the 12th grade. Where did all that go? I'm baffled. I don't know where all of it is. We spoke of robotics. We spoke of AI. We spoke of a continuum of classes like many of the other school districts. We spoke of people leading STEM. Other school districts, the person you hired as a principal who left is now the head of STEM, I think, in Peekskill. Where did all the discussions go? And I would like to add, while we're talking about golf outings, that out of the need and desire of the community to have more academic agendas, Dr. O'Connell and I came up with a district-wide chess tournament, the only event that is through all 3 of your schools. That just took place. It was not in any reports. Okay, I fund that. In addition, I just gave a gift of $500 through a family foundation that was not documented on the donations. I would like to know why. Okay, I'm a little baffled. The last thing, let me see, is, there was no mention at the middle school that there was a school-wide hearing, or I forgot what they call it, about racism. But when my son wrote a letter to the administration stating there was miscommunication about the Middle East and he offered to do a forum, no one responded. He had to go and ask, and he was relegated 5 months later to a history club with 15 kids. But yet, you held a district-wide forum in the middle school about racism. Okay, we have a real problem here. And foiling to find out when the policy was to have silent board meetings. Is it a county-wide, a school-wide policy, or a statewide policy? And does it exist? Because no one here answers anything.
I'm Erica Loudon Corwin. I live at Penfield. I just wanted to talk again about the Palestine booth at the CHUFSD Cultural Night. The woman running the booth, her name was Hiba Haber. She is from Dobbs Ferry. She's on the Dobbs Ferry Human Rights Diversity Committee. In addition, again, to controversial material about the existence of Israel, whether or not it exists, CET students were encouraged to fill out a raffle ticket And that had their name and contact information. We don't know what happened to that information or who took that information or what that information is being used for. I believe that's illegal. There were crackers with a QR code, and if you scanned it, it led to an image stating from the river to the city. So again, I don't know what happened here, but obviously I think that we need to ask, was the administration and staff member who planned this event, were they held accountable? Are you gonna think about what you're gonna do next year to make sure this doesn't happen? I think those are all really valid questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Follow up to my comments on the failure of transgender medicine and policies that have flowed in states and the federal government. It's an abomination. There's more coming, as is the state. The CAS report, which is the most authoritative report, which came down in Britain, in addition to these other European reports, criticized almost every study that has been made, and especially the incestuous relationship between the Endocrine Society and these transgender physicians. They said most of these guidelines, which the school district follows, so their shrinks, lack editorial independence, developmental rigor, and will all basically copy from each other. By the way, this is not something new. We have seen this in the COVID process in the United States, and that's why citizens throughout this country are in deep skepticism about the medical establishment. From the silence of doctors, emergency room doctors who are trying to get some treatment to these patients who are dying right in front of them, and develop a list of 20, which the medical establishment attacked viciously and allowed their patients to die instead, like the 15,000 nursing home patients in the state of New York. Item 2. This district has specifically on multiple occasions, both by the assistant superintendent and the former superintendent, relied on the Southern Poverty Law Center for identifying hate groups, many of which are not hate groups, that people have opinions they don't like, Christian groups, pro-life groups, gun groups, etc. The Southern Poverty Law Center at one time did good work, probably about 40 years ago. Since 1995, it's been called the Poverty Palace. It has a bankroll offshore of $1 billion. And its executives have been accused of discriminatory practice against Black employees, sexual exploitation of their female employees, shakedowns of corporations funded by other corporations, right? And operating as a personal piggy bank for its founders. This is not a reliable source for the school district to identify people they don't like. The Southern Poverty Law Conference Center should come on your list. Lastly, you had a student, you had a parent last week identified a problematic health teacher who she had to go without identifying that person. She had to go to the athletic director to get her to change the references on her website because it was so pornographic. You know, past is prologue. Thank you.
Would anyone else would like to speak?
Hi again, this is Christina Alvarez Arnold from Old Coast Road North, and I'm doing a two-fer tonight. This is a very different subject. I am speaking now as the chair of the Idea Committee in the village, and I wanted to commend and thank the students of the Star Club for participating in our Juneteenth celebrations this last Wednesday. They took this vacation day as a time to contribute to the community, and we really appreciated all the energy and the time that they brought to, 3 events that we had. They made a soundtrack, which I was so excited about because it went from Louis Armstrong to Rihanna to Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, and I'm like, how do you know this music? I mean, kudos to these kids for knowing this music. They did posters and they had questions and they engaged kids at a picnic despite the extreme heat. And it was just wonderful to see these young citizens in the making get so engaged with the community. So my thanks to the Star Club and kudos for just having such wonderful students. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak? Okay, well then we will.
I'm here. John Green, 5 Lounsbury, Chief Guns in the high school. One of the things that it's kind of a follow-on to the query around the Board of Regents piece, but it's specific to syllabi. And as a parent of high school students, I see a lot of variation in relation to the way in which instruction is delivered and my concern is that there are some courses that seem to be driven by slide decks, by Google Decks, where a lot of the content for the course lives on a slide deck. And some of these decks were very popular during the pandemic for good reason. And the concern is that it's very difficult for students to engage with just a slide deck. And that the syllabus needs to have different ways of engaging the content, including text-based, like text-rich, and lots of writing prompts as well. And I'm wondering, I guess my question is there a way for parents and is there a more kind of transparent way to see syllabi and the way in which the lessons within the syllabi for each course are reviewed by the supervisors, by the administration, before the start of the school year? So what's that process and what are those protocols in place for the principal and the administrators to review the curriculum before it's enacted? What's the criteria or rubric that's used to review the curriculum to make sure it's high quality and standardized across the board? And how do we have, as the community and as parents, how do we have access to that so we can kind of anticipate things that are happening, especially around weighted assessment, and prepare for those and have more ways of projecting out and helping our kids prepare for big assignments that are coming up. It's very demanding to kind of to stay on top of these things. So ways to kind of streamline and create more transparency around the process for high quality syllabi and curriculum, and then being able to access that as a community would be phenomenal. Thanks.
Anyone would like to speak?
So I want to go back a little bit. One issue we were talking about is historically how long this has gone on with the lack of pay. And I think many of you know there's a whole theory of wages called comparable worth, about how to compare the worth of someone's value of what they really do, not what the market does. And comparable worth, a lot of the work was to look at sex discrimination. I think it's pretty clear that aides are almost all predominantly women, partly the way the labor force developed, spouses, wives of husbands, how their husbands are the main support. This is an issue of discrimination against women, which has continued for many years in this country. It's not the only industry. but it is one that's extremely dramatic. And I think that's something we should be thinking about. I did mention before briefly about the lack of continuity for children when the aides are changed often, even within the school year, maybe a couple of aides within the school year. We have a situation where I know like Greg Campanero will be running around trying to find aides to cover a class. So this is what our assistant principal has to do. Same thing for Ms. Bianchi. Relationships are incredibly important to education. I think you all know that. When you keep breaking a relationship and then starting over again, you're interfering with their education. You all know better than everyone about this issue because you've all been working on relationships. This district is incredible at working on relationships between teachers and students. It's admirable. I see it all the time. I'm grateful for it. It's certainly affected my kids in a very positive way. So there's another area that we did not mention, I did not get to, and I think David Tuttle talked about it last time, is healthcare benefits. There are no healthcare benefits for the teachers' aides here. There is a memo that's on the website here about that. People can apply for 100%. They can apply for healthcare and then they have to pay 100% of the premium. Now, the premium for most people is more than what they make. It's like 23, 29 for families. So they can pay the district to get health insurance and be in the minus. You all know that's not good. Again, Dobbsbury, they pay 90%. The reason this happens is because these employees are only working 27.5 hours a week or something close to that. They're working under 30 hours. Why is that? Because the Affordable Care Act would require the district to cover their health insurance. So there's a game going on. Actually, I would call it playing the angles. This district has been playing that angle at least since the beginning of the Affordable Care Act to make sure that they don't have to put in the money for health insurance. Now, is this a game that we all can see? No, many of us don't know. We don't know the requirements for the Affordable Care Act. So what's happening is at a certain level, when you are the ones who are supposed to be the model, you're teaching children to play the angles. We play the angles, maybe, you could watch and see, maybe you should be playing the angles too, because that's what we do in our leadership. That's what we do in our community. We play the angles. Well, maybe there's some angles we can teach you in school. So I would just say, I don't think that's what we need to do. I've seen plenty of education in this district. It's anything but playing the angles. I see some wonderful experience my children have had. You don't mean to do that. You really don't. So let's stop playing the angles. Thank you.
Speak. Okay. We will now move into board reports. Advocacy.
I think the advocacy committee kind of reported a little bit at our last meeting. We haven't met since then. Thank you, Sarah, for answering the request that Omar had raised for the advocacy committee to it, so I didn't have to answer that. We did discuss and broach, I think, that if anyone does want to come forth with a potential resolution for the municipal business meeting, the deadline is, I think, July 12th for us to submit. So again, we invite you to reach out to us if there's something specific, and I have been remiss in sending out the resolution packet background information. So I will send that out this weekend.
Thank you for sending that. We should all have it in our emails.
We'll bump it. How about that?
Yep. Audit committee.
Well,
I
just
think
went
we
through
just
it,
went through
yeah.
it, so.
All good there.
All right, board development, you should have all received an email from me earlier this week with the board self-evaluation form. We're asking that you fill that out by July 3rd. So board development has some time to consolidate that data ahead of our July 11th reorganization meeting. So.
Is there a deadline in terms of, because I think sometimes we have a hard time responding to emails as a board in a timely fashion, a deadline for when we need to get our summer travel plans to Denise to help plan any sort of summer programming or development plans put together?
I would ask if everyone could fill that out ASAP. I would like to have that fully completed before our reorg meeting as well.
That sounds great, thank you.
Am I missing anything? I think that was, yeah.
That's it.
Was the gist of what we've been doing right now in board development. All right, communications committee.
No, I would just ask everyone to please get Denise, our updated bios. I'm guilty of not having done that either, in or before the July 11th meeting, so that we're just really updating our committee choices at that point. We don't have an upcoming date on the books right now. I think we're just winding down, waiting for those committee shifts to happen at the reorg meeting. And yeah, that's it.
I did actually have a follow-up for you. I realized I did reach out to our next year's ex officio board member who will not be able to attend the reorganization meeting. So I know you'd asked about that with regard to photo.
Yeah.
But she will not be able to attend.
So maybe we'll do it at our first fall meeting to do the photo.
That's fine.
Since our makeup isn't changing.
Yeah, we can
Right.
follow up with,
Yeah.
we can follow up with Jackie and.
And I would love to do it in front of some of this amazing artwork the art club has done in the building, like just even that corridor where they have the, they've painted, it's like a chunk.
The library?
Yeah, going up to the library.
Yeah,
that
we had done
corner.
a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's new, so. Not in front of the library, there's actually a corridor going up to the
Oh,
library.
no,
yeah,
you're talking about that other.
yep.
right,
Yeah, that's
right,
new.
right.
With some,
Yeah,
you
Or
work on it.
something else, I just think the one in the English wing is too high up, but I would love to highlight some of the student art, but that's just my 2 cents on that.
All right.
So I have one question about the bios. I'm just wondering. You want them, you think they should be submitted before July 11th reorg meeting? Because, I mean, to some extent, they'll
Some of them are
change.
2 years old,
Well, I
yeah.
know, but some of them will change depending, or may change. People may want to say different things depending on what happens at the reorg.
It's a
meeting.
start. I
Okay, so-
think that's our minimum.
So subject to potential changes.
Well, I think
after
there will
that.
be changes after the reorg meeting, but yeah,
Yeah, okay.
but just to kind of refresh them.
Policy committee?
Sure. We will be continuing our work on policy 0105, the DI policy. We'll also, I'm hoping to get back on track with our social media work, and we had discussion today about policy revisions in the policy on extracurricular activities. I know Denise has mentioned a policy that she would like us to consider. Rachel has discussed a policy that she would like us to consider, and hopefully we'll be able to do that expeditiously, as well as others that may be backed up.
All right, has the ad hoc committee met?
We have not, we will be scheduling a meeting soon.
Okay.
Did we have a limit to like the length of our charge? Do we?
I believe it's 3 months according to the policy, that it can be.
We
extended.
might need
Yeah.
to re-extend that.
So we should
Yeah.
probably bring them to the table just to extend our
you know.
period of ad hoc-ness.
No problem with the extension of that. I don't know that we need to do a formal resolution. I think a thumbs
I
up,
think
thumbs
it
down on
has
that.
to
I
be
think
done.
we're.
Should we do
working
that
on
at
it.
the reorg meeting? Should we do that at the reorg meeting?
Well, we wouldn't need to, that committee makeup wouldn't need to change because it's an ad hoc committee, but I think we can just continue, right, the 3 months passed.
Right.
Months ago, so yeah, we can, I think
You
if
just-
everybody is
Do that.
okay with the continuation of the ad hoc committee. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah.
Would you like to swap on? Is that what you're saying, sir?
If there's any interest.
Well,
No,
then
but-
we can discuss it.
Yeah, but I guess I was gonna say then perhaps at the reorg meeting, since it's a new year and a new committee, even the ad hoc committee, we might as well
That seems fair.
vote it on it on July 11th, and either it will be the same 3 of you, or, you know.
Yeah.
Omar step in and so on.
We can add that to
However.
the indications of interest.
That sounds great. I mean, I think that, you know, we did sort of commit to trying to move on this just because it also informs, of course, are giving permission for all these organizations and processes by which we do that for the upcoming school year, so. I think we thought we would be able to get it done in less time than it has actually been possible, because of course everyone does have so many other many commitments.
All right, all right, well, with that, we'll move into polling of the board. Does anyone have anything for polling?
I have an item on the board. I had the pleasure of attending the CHUFSD presentation of Stefan Castilla this week. As I always get the terminology wrong, but I was his sponsor, whoever the employer is, I was the employer. Or more accurately, Destination Imagination of New York was the employer, and Stefan did a really great job. Gave a great presentation. It was great to see, and I'm always excited to see the work that our CHUFSD students do and perform, and how they grow in the process and discover new opportunities and new endeavors. So kudos to Stefan, and kudos to Martin High School for the continuation of the program. I hope it continues to grow from strength to strength.
Yes, I would echo what Josh said about CHUFSD generally. I had an opportunity on Tuesday to attend a number of presentations by students for which I could see in all of them how they reflected the passions on what they learned in their various. I would just point out to my colleagues that there are more presentations tomorrow. And if anybody had the opportunity to get over to high school, I think you'd be welcome to, it'd be great to see.
I would have liked to know about that. How did you find out about that, Neil?
Well, I found out because years ago, when the coordinator of the CHUFSD program set it up with parent and community evaluators. My wife and I always got tabbed to be evaluators. And I just knew what was going on, so I just reached out and I said, would you send her the schedule? I think one of the things that we should have done, and probably should have been in a weekly, would have been really good for, an invite to be provided to the board to be able to attend. And here's the schedule. I got the schedule from her probably Friday or Monday, and I'm sorry that I didn't think to circulate to everybody else.
This is how we find out about things, right?
Yeah.
So it's great to
So
know.
really for future reference, and if high school administration is watching, and certainly these folks to my left, make sure that in the future we get that word out.
I would guess Laura's watching, so.
A major culminating project for students' entire academic careers at the high school, and hearing what we've heard tonight from the community about the fact that the board seems to evidence disconnect with academics. It would be helpful to have like a little support from the district, getting information about these things in a timely fashion, because
Sure.
I think we would like to be able to attend and see what's going on. It was a pleasure to attend the science fair. It was a real pleasure to go in to hear the passion projects at the middle school, but I do feel like sometimes we're not hearing, from every building in the same way. So I think that that's an area that, we'd like to hear a little bit more from.
And even, some of the other things.
I would just say that, as a parent of four, CHUFSD students who has to balance taking vacation days to spend time with my family and to travel, and also to dedicate to board service, I think a calendar, in a timely fashion, because I would give up a vacation day at work to come in and do one of these things. Maybe it hasn't come up before because we've had a board that's, had more flexibility, but in going forward, something to think about in terms of next year, in terms of allowing everyone opportunities to do this. And also in terms of sharing these opportunities as a board, to make sure that there's representation at all of these events, and that our students know how much we do want to be there for them. And we want to witness their achievements, and we want to witness our administrators' achievements too. We don't want any building to feel like we're not showing up for them. So
Agreed.
maybe we'll do that going forward,
Yeah.
is we'll come up with a way to communicate with each other as a board in terms of how to make sure that we're
I
showing
have
up.
something else.
Yeah, I'd make another point specifically about CHU's, and something I've noticed the last couple of years that I've participated in one way or another, is that there are many students for whom they have family members and supporters who can come and attend and be part of their presentation. And there are also some students for whom it's not possible for their family members to come. And the end result is that in some cases, they end up presenting to a nearly empty room. And that's not right. So I think it sort of behooves us to make sure that we publicize this enough and create opportunities for folks to attend. And that might mean potentially shifting the scheduling of some of the presentations, having some more flexible scheduling. And I know that that's complicated when, given that there are faculty involved in this contracts and so on. But that may be something we want to look at and to make it more possible for family members to attend.
And I'll add that in the, when I first learned about it, when my children, I was on board, and then my children reached high school age, they did have evening programs because using parent assessors, evaluators meant that you sometimes couldn't get parents or community members in the daytime. So I was working in Manhattan, I would be told, I want you this night, you be here at 6 o'clock and do the 6, 7, and 8 o'clock slots. And my wife, who was off on Tuesdays, she was told.
I used to do
"You be
slots
here."
before the board meeting.
Right,
you know.
before the board meeting, so. So I think, I don't know if it can be arranged, given, the things that you mentioned, but it is worth exploring. And worth at us as Anna said, making sure that we go to these things to support a student who may not have a lot of fans or supporters in the room, and I think it's important for the kids. I do have one other thing about that I want to add on a different subject on polling, which is in my role as a member of the BOCES board. I attended the graduation ceremony at the Pinesbridge School. We don't have any students this year who graduated from the Pinesbridge School, but looking at those students who suffered and will continue to suffer with major medical and learning disability issues, and looking at what they presented and how far they came, was a very emotional, heartfelt presentation of the 8 students who were there, 9 students rather. And it really struck me that when we talk about those students for whom we are providing extensive support in, out of district placements, and we're spending, money to make sure that they can achieve as much as they can. It really struck me how important that work is, and how, even though it might be a large hit on our budget, how we, should and must do that work for those kids, because that's our, it just really grabbed me, and I just wanted to say that publicly to all of us and to the community, so that we understand when that's in the budget, why it's in the budget, and what we do, and all the work that Rachel does. We hope to bring kids back to our district, but looking at these kids, they would never be able to, work in the district but the services that they get are profoundly and profoundly wonderful.
Anything else for polling?
I do. Just a couple things sort of to follow up on. So I think it was great to hear from the community. This was actually like a couple weeks ago that PVC families, I think generally were interested to note that the district conducted a survey of the climate and students' sort of reactions to how they feel about being in school and how safe they feel in school. I think one of the things that we've heard from you all is that there might be an opportunity for the board to hear a little bit more fully and in more detail about the results of that survey and how those results might connect to concrete action plans to address some of the questions and concerns that came up. So I wanted to make sure that that's on the full board's radar as well as on the district's radar. I don't know if there's a sort of like a time frame for that, but would be interested to hear when you feel it's ready, whether that might be something we'd be hearing a little bit more from you all. The second thing is just having come up, again, talking about questions that are coming up in the community. A few weeks ago, I think, folks who had students at PVC transitioning between 6th grade and 7th grade attended an evening session on hidden transitions from 6th and 7th grade. I'm about to go through that hidden transition a second time, so it feels very immediate to me. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend that discussion, but I have been hearing from folks in the community that there are a lot of questions still remaining after that great presentation, where there was a lot of great information about the changes to the science curriculum at the middle school. And I believe we have also been told by the district that if this is something we'd like to hear a little bit more about, it's something that you all can explain to us. So I would love to also propose that we get this on the schedule sooner rather than later, because parents in the community do have questions. And I think do want to sort of understand how these changes fit into the larger context of science education as it leads from middle school into the high school. What ends up happening, I think, as we all know, is that when we don't sort of get concrete answers, people start answering questions without all the information. And I'm sure that this is something that you all thought about. And I'm sure that there is a great deal of information that you have to share. So I think it would be great to start that discussion. I know people aren't thinking about science over the summer, but actually they are. So I don't know that we need to necessarily wait until September when school year is really backing up and running to be discussing some of these things. And I invite us to really, respond to the fact that folks in the community do have questions and are asking us as a board to raise those questions here. Thank you. Josh?
And I'm making some comments, maybe think about something. Our students have just recently finished taking AP tests, Regents tests, other standardized assessments, and given the resurgence in the use of standardized testing in college admissions, I think it sort of behooves us to keep an eye on this. In the past, we used to do annual reports. I know that that is not necessarily the best way to go about disseminating information, but it would be good to get an idea of year over year situation with respect to AP scores and, as a means of seeing how we do. And just as another piece of information, I think it would be useful. I know that those scores are not available yet, because I actually know somebody who's still working on scoring some of them. But as they become available and when the AP, when the College Board publishes the statistics that they make available to us, it would be good to see that. And it would be good to have a timeline so we can get that onto the agenda to have a look at it. See how we do, and hopefully get some good news.
And I would add to that, taking that data along with other data to inform our work in what school can be and our work on interdisciplinary and all of the things, because yes, we had a speaker during hearing the public who talked about curriculum mapping, and he talked about curriculum progression. We have to, and I think that's one of the things we're talking about, ensure that we are, we're not losing sight of making sure that our students, our teachers are, have the curriculum maps that they are working with, and we are meeting the rubrics that the state provides, and we are educating students in a way that's gonna help them in the future.
And that we are updating our documentation that we can point parents and community members to so that it is in sync with our actual current practice. And I know that that is a large task. I know that that's a large task and, but I think it's something that we're increasingly expected to do, right? So, even if it's to annotate, to indicate this was last updated in such and such a date, and we plan to update it by such and such a date, even if it isn't updated yet,
To Rubicon,
right?
or that does provide the updated curriculum.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So the website has a link to, it links to it's Rubicon Atlas, is that?
Yeah.
Rubicon
Right.
Atlas for the curriculum mapping, so.
My concern is more that a lot of the things that we're doing are not necessarily things that fit cleanly into that framework. You know, we're changing things more fundamentally in how we think about school and how we think about how we engage students and how we think about how we engage with content in interdisciplinary practices and interdisciplinary instruction and so on. And our maps are maps about specific topics primarily. And there may be some work that needs to be done to reflect that. And some of that may be work that it can be done in Rubicon Atlas. Updated fairly easy. Some of it may be external documentation that says, and layered on top of this, we want to alert people visiting the website to the following interdisciplinary problems, which create links between these 2 different or 3 different Rubicon Atlas categories. You know, I don't want to speak to the specifics of how it should be done, just that it's something that I think would be valuable, both for us as a board to have access to and for the parents of the district to have access to.
And I'm thinking, you know, to follow up on what one of the speakers spoke, I think it was Mr. Green, talking about how do I see the syllabi and how do I see what I should think about? Obviously, teachers communicate things about the course, but there's also, you know, to students and to parents back to school might in other ways.
It's just maybe.
But there's also, you know, the utilization of that material in Rubicon Atlas. That is a point of reference for teachers, for parents, and
I think this is a wonderful work session topic.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it is, and I do understand that it is
And then
late.
we could like all discuss it then and maybe submit questions before that.
Sure.
Yeah, would be a good thing to get on.
Yeah, I mean,
on
I
the
think,
docket.
yeah, absolutely.
Where did our parking lot link go that we used to have sometimes on these agendas? I feel like I haven't seen it for a while. Like, where are we adding these things and tracking them so we don't lose them?
The document was provided, I will re-find it and send it, it's a
I
shared
would love to
document.
see a new document actually.
Yeah, well, just like something that we can see.
Did in the spring create a new document,
Yeah.
so,
It's
and
not
that
helpful.
link was sent to everybody?
Yeah.
No, I just
and so
searched
we'll-
for it and oddly enough, we can't find it. We searched for parking lot, so I'm struggling. I guess.
I think it's
we
a-
can have
I
it
think
again
it's
and
called
maybe-
work
Yeah, well, send it again and then we can post it out, or it's in, so we can post it somewhere
That we can see with regularity would be great, I think, because it is.
It's called BOE work session topics.
Well, so it wasn't actually called parking, was it?
It used to be that.
That's
That's-
It used to be the parking
It
lot,
used to be the
but
parking lot,
yes,
yeah.
we updated it to work session topics that people, so.
Great.
All right. Does anyone have anything else? All right, so items needed for the next Board of Education meeting. So our next Board of Education meeting will be our reorganization meeting on July 11th. So please come prepared to discuss committee assignments for leadership, all of these things. We will have that obviously at our reorg meeting and then which is followed then by the regular July business meeting all in one. Yeah. So fill out your self-evaluation, fill out your indications of interest. And we'll be there on July 11th. All right, and with that, recommended action that the Board of Education enters into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person or persons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. All right, we expect that we will adjourn immediately following this executive session. So thank you to those of you who joined us this evening, and to those of you who are online. Good night.
Got it.